All right, Nick. Every show means every show, man. Every night means every night. Even when you don't want to be here, sometimes you just got to be here, you know? Also, want to openly admit this shirt has nothing to do with the Cubs. It was just a bad planning on my part.
Oh, man.
It's a little bad planning. I do have a Reds shorts on, though. There's that.
I mean, you wake up Ian Happ and then you wear Cubs jersey and you're sipping out of a baby cup. I mean, what is going on here?
It's a tough look right now, isn't it? Yeah, I'm on the mend. I'm doing my best to get back here. Yeah.
Shout out to Eric Yang, just got his first big league at bat.
Well, good for him. I would turn the TV. Well. I'll turn the TV on, but it feels like I'm wasting my time.
Didn't go well, but shout out to him.
Yeah, at least I could say he did it. Now in 10 years, when he's rooting for a professional baseball team, he can argue with people and tell them that he played in the big leagues, so he knows more. So, there's that. That's what I'm here for. I'm feeling a little under the weather. I'm just here to try to cheer everybody up, make you laugh. You know.
I see what you did there, and I appreciate it.
No problem. Ah, man. Junis, not the best start.
Yeah, my guy Zulueta either.
Yeah, Zulueta got hit pretty good. Oh, man. Well, at least they're making this ninth inning and not all that suspenseful. Man. At least this game kind of felt like the one of 162 kind of, you know, like they just lost tonight. So that's
Pat said we didn't talk about Davis Wenzel last night. It was in the podcast. There's about 5 minutes of it. Yeah. So it was in the podcast this morning. That was that news came out after I was on the stream for 4 hours, so
you missed it.
I didn't get into the show last night, but it did make the podcast.
It's fair.
And by make the podcast, I literally read the article from MLB Trade Rumors in the podcast. I was like, I'm not doing any more research.
Oh man.
We need some scores.
David, David, I guess let's play a game here before the show starts. Do you think Nick Lodolo is bad? Is that what you took out of today's start? You think he stinks?
The worst pitcher I've ever seen, man.
Nick the Stopper Lodolo. What a hot take that was. Yeah, I'm gonna stand my ground on the fact that I think that Nick Lodolo is pretty damn good. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
You gonna be that bold, Trace?
Yeah. Well, I also want to openly say that I think that it's kind of crazy to say this out loud, but this was just one game tonight, and on top of that, I actually think Lodolo. Maybe not so much in the later innings, but when he got hit or when he gave up some runs there early, they weren't like, you know, they weren't the sharpest hit baseballs I've ever seen. There's some seeing eye ground balls. Yeah,
we did make it to the end, Trace.
All right, we finally made it.
We made it.
All right. Shout out to Santiago Espinal. He had a pretty decent night though. So, all right, folks. You know the deal. We'll be back here relatively shortly. shortly. It's been so long that I had to use this rundown that I don't even know if this is the right place to start, but we're going to try it anyway. All right, losing edition of Chatterbox Reds, one in which really wasn't close. It wasn't close. It wasn't much of a competitive baseball game. Cubs win 13-4. Reds felt like they stifled kind of an opportunity, I guess is what we'll call it, to kind of get yourself into a believing mode again. They're in a tough spot, Nick. They're going to have to do something that's not realistic in order to kind of get back into a place where the postseason's a real possibility. But you felt like with Nick Lodolo going today, back-to-back wins against the Cubs kind of look like a team that is in last place, and they are. You felt like today there was a chance, and they just didn't capitalize.
Yeah, I mean, it stinks that we're at the point of this season where you have to be disappointed with taking 2 of 3 against the Cubs. I mean, right. It's unrealistic to ever expect a sweep, but when you've dug yourself a hole, you still kind of feel a little disappointed. So I get the disappointment, but it also is tough to sweep series. Fortunately, the Reds got swept a few too many times on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Reds have dug themselves a hole now to where we're going to be disappointed in things that we probably otherwise wouldn't have been disappointed about if they played better baseball 2 months ago. You know, and I don't know if that's fair or unfair, however you want to look at it. But today, I take nothing away from today's game. It just felt like it was part of a full baseball season, and you get this from time to time. And dare I say, I don't. There was a point in time in this game, Nick, where I'd be lying if I didn't think, you know what? I hope the Cubs win like 24 to 3, just so I can stop hearing about this run differential, and we could just get back to where it's a relatively close to an average run differential thing. But that's not what happened. So it was 13-4 instead of 23-4. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. And I'm not perfectly well. I'm certainly not dying. Don't want to make it seem as if I'm in terrible shape here, but I'm maybe it's because I'm a relatively little unwell that I've been a little more easygoing watching this baseball game. But after like the third inning, I just thought to myself, you know what? It's just not the Reds' night. And turns out it wasn't. So I don't know if you have anything left to add here before we jump into the box score recap.
Yeah, Benson's RBI double made it an even run differential for the series. If they would have drove in that run, the Cubs would have won the run differential despite losing the series. I was paying close attention.
Yeah, that's what gets you in trouble, is that you're joking right now, but somebody's going to take that dead serious, and they're going to be absolutely pissed off drinking their coffee tomorrow if you leave this in the rundown or leave this in the podcast.
I'll probably leave it in. I think I'll leave it in.
All right.
Plus 35 after tonight. So
right.
We took a hit. All right, you ready for the box score?
I was going to say something, but no, I think I'm ready for the box score recap.
right, Reds taking on the Chicago Cubs. Reds trying to finish off a series sweep. Nick Lodolo against Kyle Hendricks. Lodolo retired the Cubs in order in the first, but the second inning was not so kind. Bellinger reached on a very weakly hit infield single that was placed perfectly. Horner doubled him home, and then Bethancourt singled home Horner. 2-0 Cubs. In the top of the third, Ian Happ led off with a weak single off the glove of Lodolo. Lodolo then hit Paredes with a pitch, and then Seiya Suzuki doubled them both home to make it 4-0. Cody Bellinger singled, then Patrick Wisdom doubled him home. Just like that, it was 6-0 Cubs. Kyle Hendricks retired the first 10 Reds before Elly De La Cruz crushed a double at 107 off the bat. With 2 outs, TJ Frieda walked, but on ball 4, Elly tried to steal third. Was called safe on the field, but was clearly out, and it was overturned to end the inning. Bottom of the fifth, Tyler Stevenson walked, Jeimer Candelario singled, and then Jake Fraley homered to right field to make it a 6-3 game. Nick Lodolo retired the first 2 batters in the top of the sixth. He had retired 7 straight and 9 of his last 10 prior to that point. But then Pete Crow Armstrong singled, and then Ian Happ homered. 8-3 Reds. Nick Lodolo's day was done. Lodolo tied a career high with 8 runs allowed, and he allowed double digits hits for just the second time in his career. Jacob Junis then came in, making his Reds debut. He gave up back-to-back doubles to the first 2 batters that he faced in a Reds uniform. 9-3 Cubs. Junis gave up 2 more runs in the 7th to make it 11-3 Cubs. Zulueta gave up 2 more runs in the 8th to make it 13-3 Cubs. 13 runs, the most the Reds have allowed in a game this season. Reds did get 1 back in the bottom of the 8th on a Will Benson double to make it 13-4. But the Reds ultimately fall with that final score, 13-4. Reds now 52-56 on the season.
And we do have a deep drive, and it felt meaningful at the time. Jake Fraley, good for Jake Fraley. Excuse me. Here we go, getting back on the horse here. It was a big home run. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like it wasn't. It was a point in the game. Reds are down 6-0. It cut the lead for the Cubs in half to 6-3. The win probability only would jump 10% to what was 20%, as we all know would be 0%. But shout out to Jake Fraley on a big home run. It is the DSC Deep South Commodities deep drive of the day. And you know what? For a guy that struggled with power this year, it was good to see Jake Fraley hit one over the actual fence. Even though it didn't get out by a lot, we'll still take it. DSC, though, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information, and thank you to John and his team for supporting us and our show. A couple quick things here to get to. I got a couple supers here before we jump into the show. Big Z, we'll kind of get us started here. Says, 6th inning, Reds leaving Lodolo in after the Fraley home run. Is this them accepting the season is over? Honest question. I don't think so. I think it's just it was a hopeful thought that they just did a bullpen game. And you've seen what happened when they went to the bullpen after he left. So maybe David Bell kind of knew that was the opportunity of what was going to happen, then happened after he took out Lodolo. So I don't know if you have a differing opinion on that, Nick, but
I mean, Lodolo had retired 7 straight batters and 9 of 10 before Armstrong singled. He was 1 pitch away from getting out of that inning. Right. I mean, you saw what the other relievers did after Lodolo. I mean, you weren't going to use your top relievers down run. So do you want Lodolo in that spot, or do you want to use your back end relievers? I'm going to roll with Lodolo. You also want Nick Lodolo to get his pitches in. And that's kind of the big talking point for me probably tonight about Nick Lodolo. He's about to reach a career high in games started and innings pitched. There might be some struggles. I think Nick Lodolo in some ways got a pass that Hunter Green didn't get because Nick Lodolo had such a small sample. And as a pitcher, it's easier to put up good numbers in a smaller sample when teams aren't seeing you multiple times throughout a year. So it's important for Nick Lodolo to stay healthy, to kind of grind through a full season. And that's like the toughest part of, I think, being a big league pitcher. You saw it last year with Andrew Abbott, how he slowed down at the end of the year. And you saw it at times with Hunter Green. So like, I think that's important. And I mean, the Reds were down 3 runs. And Lodolo's 1 pitch away from getting out of that inning. So I think all those factors, I certainly did not have a problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Big Z then chimes in and says, Ian Happ. Yeah. I'm going to wear it. You know, I'm a guy that usually doesn't like poking the bear. I did listen to Sadak today when they were talking about the Bally Sports Parlay. Excuse me. I think it's FanDuel or whatever the hell they call it. I don't know. No free ads. But point is Sadak said that they don't have the ability to influence. I don't know what he actually said. He said something like they don't have the ability to influence things that happen on the field. So I'm not going to take that approach. I could sit here and say that, I just because I poked the bear with Ian Happ that it doesn't matter. He was going to do that anyways. But you know what? I'm not doing that. I actually. Do I genuinely think that I make a difference? No, but I'll say this: I won't be poking the bear again. So my apologies.
Ian Happ does have significantly lesser numbers against left-handed pitching, so didn't work tonight. But you do want lefties facing Happ as much as you can.
Yeah, it didn't work out, so it is what it is. Yeah, it's the final thing on Lodolo. I think we already talked about Lodolo a little bit before the show started. I had made mention that, am I going to sit here and think that Nick Lodolo is not good after this performance? No, I'm not. I do have semi-concerns about the blister situation, Nick. I don't know, what it's going to take to make it to where that doesn't even get brought up during a broadcast. And it feels like every time he struggles a little bit, it gets brought up. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just like the scapegoat that we use every single time something doesn't go right. It's like, oh, the blister might be flaring up. He might not have had a problem at all tonight. I don't know. But point is, I still believe in Nick Lodolo, and I'm not gonna like fall back on that take just because of a random, one outing in the middle of what would be basically the end of July. Just not gonna do it, Nick. Can't do it.
Yeah, I think I would maybe put a little more credence into the blister issue if he walked a bunch of guys. He didn't walk a single batter tonight, so I think it's kind of hard to blame the blister.
He did hit somebody though.
Okay, that is fair. Good, that's a good point. But that was the only batter
I know.
I believe that he put on base for free. So I just would think like his command would be a little more erratic if it was just a straight blister thing. I see a quote coming from Bally Sports. Interviewing Lodolo, I just didn't finish my pitches tonight.
Yeah,
I think it's probably fair. As simple as that.
That's a good point by Lodolo. It's a pretty good perspective because I think he didn't get hit that hard, and you can just point to like, oh, he had some bad luck. But I do think that there were some opportunities to where he didn't bury that slider like he traditionally would. He left it kind of like in the middle of the zone. He wasn't able to throw the back foot slider with a whole lot of success tonight. And that's a big part of his game. So point is that even though, he didn't walk anybody and it might not look as if his command was, really bad, more or less he had an opportunity to get some big strikeouts in some situations or get a ground ball double play to Suzuki there. Instead, Suzuki kind of gets a bat on it. By the way, that ball was damn near foul. I would have loved to have seen it right down the line, but just some tough luck, I'm not going to act like the whole thing was bad luck, but there was a couple seeing eye ground balls that the Suzuki one obviously hurt the most because that's a ground ball right down the line that scores 2 runs and you have a double and you were 4 feet from that ball being a double play ball. So it's a game of inches. We're not going to complain about it, but I'm not going to go over the top about Nick Lodolo on a night like tonight.
Yeah, I mean, as much as he's struggled for the most part over his last 5 starts, his ERA for the season is still below 4. I mean, that's how good that he was. That he can have 4 out of 5 pretty rough starts consecutively, and his season ERA still, looks that good. So he'll be fine. Only thing I am concerned about Nick Lodolo is him staying on the field. That's it. There's no other concerns for me other than that.
That's fair. Great point in the chat. Steve brings up the fact that he had multiple guys, 2 strikes. Hell, I think he had in the inning in which he gave up, I don't know, the 3 or 4 runs. He went 0-2 on the first 4 or 5 hitters, somewhere in there. He just, as Steve said, he wasn't able to finish it off. And the goofy thing is unfortunately and unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, if Suzuki rolls over that ground ball and he gets a double play, we might be talking about a completely different night, but we're not. So kind of is what it is.
That was exactly the issue with Hunter Green early in the year when he was struggling.
It was, yeah.
It was teams fouling pitches off.
Right.
But he couldn't. He kept getting ahead and had 2 strikes, and the Mariners fouled off like 7,000 consecutive pitches against him. And so he's going through it too. And I'm very confident in Nick Lodolo.
Yeah, that's command. I mean, that's all that is command. Because I think if Nick Lodolo would have hit the spots that he was going for, he would have finished off a good amount of those guys that were down 0-2. But when you throw that slider that winds up, it's although down, still in the middle of the zone, you can put a bat on it. When the slider starts at the middle of the plate and then breaks all the way out into the back foot area or off the plate, you don't hit those pitches. So that was the difference. And Lodolo obviously kind of, I don't know, stood on that tonight and said it in the post-game press conference, so good for him. Ellie, I don't know, he had a good night.
Did you not see the play?
I seen the steal. Is that what we're going to talk about?
Okay. I mean, I thought this would be at the top of your topics.
Well, I'm trying to be nice. Every time I start screaming and yelling about things, first of all, the final score ended up 13-4. Okay, so am I going to try to go over the top on a kid that is probably the only bright spot truly this season outside of Hunter Green offensively? He's the only guy that I could be like, wow, this guy's overachieved. This is more about David Bell than anything. I don't know if you want to get into this tonight or not, but I mean, this is on David Bell. I don't give a damn. Ellie is 100% athletically gifted enough to where you do not want to put a harness on him. I get that. Completely understand that. And you don't really want him to overthink the game of baseball. You don't want to try to handcuff him in any way. I understand that. But I also still think like there has to be a red light situation that Cowgill or House relays and signals onto the base pass. It just says, hey, like now's not the time. Even though we can probably steal the bag, let's not risk it because we need more to happen than just you taking this bag. I think it's more of a coaching issue than Ellie. So that's my thought on it. I don't know what your thought is.
I think the way you said it is probably the best thing because I don't think I'm not sure you really want to be sitting down with Ellie and running through every possible scenario of this is good, this is bad. I mean, eventually he'll learn that kind of stuff, but the overthinking piece, I think they need to sit down with Ellie and be like, look, there's going to be like 3 times over the next month that we're going to give you a red light and we're going to take the thinking part out because we don't want you to overthink the game and that they should have put a clear sign, signal, whatever for a red light in that spot for sure. I saw a lot of people saying that was just a selfish stolen base because he's trying to fluff up his numbers. I certainly get all of that. I don't know. I mean, we don't know Ellie's intentions. What I will say is if you're a teammate of Ellie, that's the concern is them watching that and they're going to certainly feel whether it was him trying to pad numbers or not, it certainly looks and feels like he is. So that's kind of where it becomes, I think, as big of a problem as actually making the out is just, this guy he can do whatever he wants and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think the best solution is just, Ellie, we're going to have 3 times a month. We give you a hard red light. That's it. Run crazy the rest of the time. Don't overthink the game. Because there has to be a balance of that.
I agree. I just think it's a coaching thing. And I think Ellie, to be clear, I think Ellie was hyped up to have a very high baseball IQ when he was coming up here. And I don't mean this derogatory towards Ellie. I don't know if it's as much that he has a high baseball IQ. I don't think that he does have a high baseball IQ. I think that he just has an unbelievable pool of athletic talent that he gets away with, or he's successful so many times that it looks like he has a high IQ. And I do think there are times where he has made high IQ plays. I'm not acting like he's a dumb player or something. I just think that there are times where he's done things that make little to no logical sense at the time. Even the stolen base, the night where, the Reds are down by 2 and he steals second base, and people in the that was the night obviously on the contact play with Blake Dunn, but it's like people in the comments on X and everyone's like, well, you can't put a harness, you can't stop Ellie from running. He stole second base. That got the what were people saying? They said that got the dugout motivated. I'm like,
the momentum.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we had momentum because of that stolen base. It's like, guys, we can't have it both ways. Like, the same people are probably now are killing Ellie for what he did tonight. So I don't know. There needs to be a red light. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And I'm not going to sit here and make this out to be more than it needs to be. Again, I know the Reds, as pointed out in the chat, they were down by 6, I think, when he got thrown out. They're still down by 6. Like, it's a terrible play. I get it's a terrible play. But I don't think it's as egregious, as ridiculous as this sounds, as the stolen base that he had the night they were down by 2, and Blake Dunn ended up getting thrown out on the contact play. Like, I don't think it was, because at that point, you're one swing away from tying the game. This wasn't the case. I do agree with you, though. And I'm not trying to say, because we don't know for sure, I think Ellie is 100% chasing a number. And that there's pros and cons with that. And the cons, turns out tonight, kind of can be a con. But you know what the pro is, Nick? And I thought about this a little bit. At least he's playing hard. At least like he's not taking a night off, right? And there's some semblance of justification in that, but there just needs to be somebody that says, "Hey, Ellie, we're not stealing here."
Yeah, I mean, you think that helps even if there's a perception of trying to pad numbers, the overall just his motor, it motivates his teammates to play hard too. Like, you don't want to be the only guy that's not playing like Ellie. But yeah, like I agree. Like, the situation in the 9th was worse because, like, you are every run. But having said that, you were facing Kyle Hendricks. They show the numbers on the broadcast tonight. Second time through the order, he's a totally different pitcher. Like, there was still a chance. It was slim, but there was still a chance that you could get back in that game. And the Reds did. I mean, the next inning put up 3 runs. Who knows how it would have played out. The Reds still have a very small chance of winning the game, but it wasn't your everyday down 6-0, in my opinion. It was a little more of an actual, you had an actual chance in the game versus being down 6-0 and the opposing starter is a fringe all-star or something like that.
I think we've laid out every scenario possible with this situation, and listen, I think everything that we just said actually has some semblance of truth behind it. I think the teammate thing that you mentioned is actually a pretty good thought, because the last thing you want is Ellie feeling like he's selfish and he's trying to do things for his personal gain. But the only thing that I would say back to some of those teammates is like, well, I got news for you. If we had 9 of those guys out there that were selfish, we'd probably be pretty damn good. So that's kind of, I'm not trying to be too ruthless, but I'd rather have Ellie out there stealing at idiotic times than, perhaps have, I don't know, outfielders that are hitting $190.
It's true.
So I don't know. I would like Ellie to be smart enough to know that he shouldn't be stealing in certain situations, but he's done nothing but prove to me that he doesn't know. And guess what? At times in life when you're a parent, and I guess what I'm trying to emulate now is as a coach, if you realize that your kids aren't wise enough to know something that you know, then you either teach them so they do it on their own, or you just straight up tell them that you don't do this. And I would like our management and coaches to do that. That's all. All right. Jake Fraley.
2 home runs in his last 19 at-bats after 1 in his first couple hundred. So certainly a good sign. I said a couple days ago with what the Reds are likely playing for this season, which is likely nothing, it's important to have guys either finish really strong or honestly, I hope they fall flat on their face. So we have some sort of an idea. Hopefully this is the sign of Jake Fraley to come. I don't know how much, but it's definitely a positive. Look, it's definitely a positive. It's hard to see how a guy goes from a legit, pretty much power hitter to absolutely nothing. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. It's a positive sign, but I'm not going overboard either.
It's going to have to be one of those situations where he's going to have to get red hot from a power standpoint to even get remotely close to what we thought he would be when he came into the season. And at this point, Nick, I got to be honest, like I worry about getting our hopes up or having false expectations for some guys at the end of the season. Like I'm kind of with you. Like when you mentioned the thing with Will Benson, what you want Will Benson either to be like what he was last year for what 4 months, or you just want to be the world's worst player. Because at some point, like we got to know, we can't keep going back and forth. Like if Jake Fraley spends the next month and a half looking like the Jake Fraley of old, my brain's gonna be a semi pretzel. Like because I don't know exactly what to believe anymore with some of these guys. So, TJ Friedel's a guy. I mean, I'm not trying to jump all around the place, but like TJ Friedel's a guy that I think I've convinced myself that if he's healthy, he's a legit dude. It's not a coincidence, or he didn't just have a flash in the pan good season. I think he's a legit dude, but can't like guarantee that. So same with Jake Fraley. I don't know what to make of him yet. I really don't. And I do know he had a lot of personal things that we all know that. He had a lot of personal things go on this year. These guys are human, I mean, you mentioned that last night 3,000 times to be. And I know that is true. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Is Jake Fraley's power zapped because of his personal situation? Like, possible. But it is nice to see he got off the snide. We'll see what that means going forward.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could just, you hope that it was just something that was weighing on him. You hit one, and it's like the cliche, you make your free throw. You see the ball go through the hoop, and now you're rolling. I will say, though, for Fraley, I feel like the bar is a little bit lower than Benson for me to feel good about him. Like, if, let's say, I'm going to throw a random number out here. Let's say the rest of the year, Jake Fraley had an 850 OPS. I'm going to feel pretty good about Jake Fraley at the end of the year. The rest of the year, Will Benson has an 850 OPS. I'm still a little more in the middle with him. I feel like Benson needs to be more like that 900, 950. He needs to have a little bit higher because Fraley does have a pretty decent track record prior to this year. So I feel like the bar is a little bit lower for Fraley.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it definitely feels like Will Benson is not going, I don't want to say ever, but I don't think he'll ever be as consistent as Jake Fraley, just from his approach at the plate, his swing and miss. But again, we need one of those guys to be like a legitimate player. Doesn't need to be both of them, but we need one of them to be a dude. So my bet would be Jake Fraley, but again, I don't know. I mean, Will Benson shows signs at times. I mean, there's times where Will Benson, I could see it. I think even at the beginning of the season, like two things that stick out to me that I laugh about. One of them is I think I had mentioned outside of Ellie who was going to be the highest WAR guy, and I think I had mentioned Will Benson. I think that's who I picked. That didn't turn out to be probably correct. And then the other thing I said is Will Benson could be a guy that legitimately is not in this league in 2 years, or he's an all-star. Like, I just can't figure him out either. So we'll see.
The nice thing, though, about Benson's situation versus Fraley's is both guys have options, but you're not going to option Jake Fraley to the minor leagues next year because Fraley's already earning over $2 million this year. He'll probably make a little bit more next year in arbitration. Will Benson next year is still going to be making just above the league minimum. So Will Benson, you don't have to count on him next year. You can simply have Will Benson just be a 40-man roster spot. You could go out and sign an outfielder, and if everything goes according to plan, Benson could start the year at AAA if you don't see any, major signs the rest of the year. Whereas Fraley, you kind of have to make almost a decision on him this offseason. And I don't think the Reds would non-tender him. I don't think he's at that point, but you may have to get into a situation where you have to trade him in order to create a roster spot to go sign someone else.
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. I don't totally agree with the whole money thing, even though it's true. It's like I wish money didn't always affect decision making on what you can and can't do, but it's going to, and it will. So I'm not gonna even argue that point. Like if you believe in Jake Fraley still, and you just think that Will Benson's either playing better, or you think that perhaps like right now there's some weird situations going on to where, Fraley's just not going to be a part of the big league club, then, I don't mind sending him to the minors. The only problem is to your point, people are going to look at that as, a negative because of how much he's getting paid. So,
and he also almost has too high of a batting average to send into the minor. I know that's silly.
I know,
but it is.
It's true.
Really hard to justify sending
true.
a guy that has a 278 batting average to the minors. And we're all on the same page that he's still been below average, and he is up to a 96 WRC plus.
Yeah.
So as bad as he's felt, couple home runs with the decent average, it actually is pretty good. So maybe really the margin between him being what he was to being good is a couple home runs.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't feel like a lot. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I would also say that I feel like if any guy on this team deserves a pass, he's 100% the guy. And I think that that's probably the biggest reason as to why this fan base has not really been on Jake Fraley's case a whole lot this year, because if you're a human, then you have a semi-heart, then you probably realize that, there's things that are outside of baseball that 100% could weigh you down. And his situation, 100% could weigh you down. So, not even just that situation, but he also got sick earlier this year where he lost a bunch of weight. So, it's just not been the best year for Fraley, but we'll see what happens here as we move forward into August and September. So, all right, game time. If you're looking for tickets and you want to go out to the ball yard, perhaps you're looking to go to a concert or wherever it may be and you need a ticket, there's one place to turn. It's the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app today. Use the promo code Cincy, CINCY. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, though. I want you to know. Terms do apply. 2 clicks. You can use any kind of payment method through your phone. You can also check where your seats are. And, we use the Game Time app here on Chatterbox Reds all the time. You should use it as well if you need tickets. Download the Game Time app today. And use the code, as always, Cincy, CINCY. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Shout out to 988. Text, call, night like today. This one didn't feel as heartbreaking to me. I don't know why, but it just didn't feel as heartbreaking. Having said that, as always, mantherapy.org if you need it. I could use some therapy right now. Don't know if it's man therapy, but I could use some therapy. I need some remedies to get rid of this cold as fast as humanly possible, and I've tried. Just doesn't seem that I'm being successful right now. There's that. Anything to add on your end, Nick? Oh, God. Is this on the rundown? You did it.
I wasn't going to put it on there because I didn't want to talk about it, but
I don't.
Chat was all over it, so I guess they want us to talk about it.
I'm going to say this. I don't really care. How do I say this? I'll just read it. Okay, you can read that. I'm not reading that.
This is from our good friend, Charlie Goldsmith, about Phil Castellini and Doug someone getting promoted. These changes in our organization recognize the excellent work being done by Phil and Doug in leading our business, said Bob Castellini. They are in lockstep with Nick's vision for the Reds baseball model to produce sustainable winning.
This team, this franchise, this organization, man. I mean, I just don't get it, dude. I don't know if there's just no one in the room that can speak to those folks that are making these decisions about the public perception, or if they're too scared to speak up. I don't really know, but it's like, why now? Why are you doing this the day after the trade deadline when notably people are even still upset at what you did at the deadline? I mean, the general manager yesterday was just speaking out of both sides of his mouth. On 1 minute, he said he didn't want to break the team up because they still had a chance to win. And the next minute, he said that they were shopping guys, and unfortunately, 2 to 3 of the deals they were looking to get, the teams decided to go a different direction. It's like, well, it doesn't sound like the same thing to me. And you know what? As I said yesterday, the whole Krall comment stuff, I don't look at Nick Krall differently. But then the next day, you come out and you promote. I don't know. Is it a big deal? Probably not, Nick. Like, that just seems like something you could sneak in there at some other point.
I don't really care about any of this. Like, I don't think this changes anything whatsoever about how the Reds are run or operated.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a name change is what it is. But why would you, let me pull it back up. Why would you use excellent? Like, I believe in Nick Krall, obviously. I think anyone who watches the show knows I do. But why would you say the excellent work being done? I mean, I guess maybe that's a business thing. When you promote someone, you have to say that. I don't know. But I feel like this was like a prepared statement, I think. Like, this wasn't like a press conference.
Correct. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I would have made sure I put in there, the work's not done. We're grinding. We want to do everything we can to get back. Something of that nature. Like, I don't really care about anything that happened. It doesn't change anything about how the Reds are run or how the Reds are operated. But the wording was pretty dumb. It was pretty just tone deaf. And, all you're doing is you are giving that negative crowd, like, you're a fire them up, baby.
Yeah, it's just a little gasoline to their fire. I mean,
why?
Exactly. But I don't care. I mean, that's where I'm at. And if you're a Reds fan, I don't think you should care, to be honest. I mean, the only reason you should care is if something dramatically changes within the organization over the next year or two. But let's face it, like, it's been bad. It's been bad. The ownership group has not been successful. Now the question of is maybe they've made a decision in the last 3 or 4 years to do business differently, which it looks and appears like they have done that. But to sit here and act like you've had great success and that's why these people need to get promoted, you look around and you're like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about like Excel spreadsheets that none of us get to see and somehow they're doing better financially than they were before? If that's possible, I got news for you. Nobody out here cares. The people that you're putting that public statement out to could give a rat's tail. I got an email the other day from the account manager of the season tickets that we purchased, and it's like what are you the title of the thing was like, how could we do better? I literally just almost replied just like, win more games. This isn't complicated, like we don't. What do you mean you guys need to do better? What do we need to do better? You realize the vast majority of this fan base could care less about the ballpark experience. They could care less about, what the parking garage situation is at Great American Ballpark. We don't give a damn about any of that. We care whether the team wins or loses. That's all we care about, okay? So you can shove your bobbleheads in the corner. You can do your promotions of your 3-2-1 nights. You can make a big splash or something and do the whole La Rosa's Pizza thing. I don't give a damn about any of it. I don't care about any of your marketing tactics. I care about one thing, and that's just to watch playoff baseball in Cincinnati again. And if that isn't what we're talking about, then I don't care. So that's why I don't care about any of this stuff, because nothing's changed. And why they put out a statement the day after, literally the day after the trade deadline, where people are already pissed that they didn't buy when they're like a 6% chance to make the postseason, it's so It's you know what? It's on par with everything else they do from a PR standpoint. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but you scratch your head and you wonder why. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, exactly. Those things do matter that you mentioned, and that's a large part of Phil's job, and hopefully that's the only part of Phil's job is running the ballpark and all the things behind the scenes. Because the biggest problem with the Castellini ownership has been that they haven't let the front office do their job, and all signs have pointed to they're finally doing that. And I know everyone hates the front office right now because they didn't do what they wanted yesterday, which I'm not even sure what people wanted, because I saw half the people wanted the Reds to buy, half the people wanted the Reds to sell. There were some other people that wanted the Reds to do both. So I don't even know really what people want, but I believe in what the front office is doing. I hope that the Castellinis stay away from them and just focus on all those other things. But I wish they wouldn't put out dumb statements like this, because this was just, I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's okay. We'll move on. Espinal. I tell you what, Espinal he's been playing incredibly well, man. I mean, he's been playing incredibly well tonight. Another hit.
The longest 11-game hit streak in Major League Baseball history, because it's over 50 games. Yeah. Not 50, but
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's got to be over over 20, 25 games, because he did not play. He had a 7-game hit streak. I know this because I do notes and stuff. And he didn't play for 4 or 5 games with an active 7-game hit streak. So, yeah, good for him. I mean, he's been one of the few guys that have done the job they were signed up for
lately
pretty well.
Yes. I mean, at the beginning of the season, unfortunately, here's the thing that semi-stinks about some of this is that it felt like the whole entire team, and this was, let's face it, this was the delta of the season so far, right? Like when you look back at this year in 2024, is it April or May? I don't know. And my mind's cooked at this point. But point is that there was a 3-week stretch, Nick, where this team everybody played terribly, and they just couldn't find a way to win to save their life. And Espinal struggled. India was struggling. Candelario was struggling. And at the time, Ellie was still playing semi-okay. The whole thing stinks because it almost feels like, in a weird way, if we could have taken this Espinal that we've had over the last, I don't know, call it 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and you inserted him over the 3 or 4 or 5 weeks when this team was struggling, it would have made a huge difference. But that's not how it goes. It's random chance. And that's probably the part where I think that some of the optimistic crowd gets frustrated, because it's it sucks that that's the way that this whole thing fell.
Yeah, it would have been nice when you had to have him in the lineup every single day. So, yeah. But, I mean, look, for Santiago Espinal, you gave up basically nothing to get him. He's played great defense. He hasn't been a good bat, but he hasn't been a terrible bat. Still a very strange season for him with 7 home runs. His slugging percentage is up 30 points this season from where it was last year, but his on-base percentage is down 31 points. So a weird season for him, and I'm sure Great American Ballpark plays quite a bit of a impact in that. But yeah, shout out to Espinal. Interesting to see what the Reds decide to do with him, because they still have control of him for quite a while. I don't know how long they'll keep on to him, but they have him for 2 more years after this year. He is going to start to get a little expensive, though. I mean, he is making almost $3 million this year. Probably be a little more than that next year. He might be a guy that prices himself out and gets non-tendered, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, Espinal's not a guy that I would put forth towards the core of players that I expect to help this ball club. But it is nice to see him playing much, much better baseball as of late. All right, any other final thoughts here before we jump into Reds and MLB? Who, what, when, where, why? Don't know. I think we're kind of all caught up here. So, anything on your end?
More thoughts here?
All right.
Nope. Sorry.
You're all right. I'm going to wait for the Reds and MLB.
Reds
and MLB, Nick.
All right, Louisville. Tough times. They've lost 9 straight games. They fall 6-2 to Scranton today. Now 4 games under 500. Luke Mailey, second rehab game. He was DHing on Wednesday, 0 for 3 with a walk. Resigns 0 for 2, did have 2 walks. Bryce had a good tweet about that. I don't remember the exact wording, but one good thing we've seen from Hines in his first 2 games, I think he has 3 walks. He was not walking at all down at AAA. So, coming back down, it seems like maybe he was given a clear directive from the Reds. We want to see your plate discipline improve, and that's looked good over the first couple games. Blake Dunn, another tough day, 0 for 5. Blake Dunn hitting 226, 67 OPS. He's almost at 250 at-bats down at AAA, so pretty disappointing season from Dunn. No Joey Weimer in the lineup yet. Jacob Hurtaby's also off. The cool story from the game, though, Reiver Sanmartin, another ending in a third scoreless, struck out 2. Reiver's got a 1.42 ERA in 6 games between several different levels since he's come back. So cool story for Reiver Sanmartin. Chattanooga, well, they were on a 4-game winning streak. That got snapped. They played a doubleheader today. They lost game 1, 16-7. What you're seeing is the stats from that. In game 2, they are down 13-1. So poor Chattanooga got a humble pie this evening. But good night for Dominic Patelli. He had been really scuffling. 2 hits for him. Austin Hendrick 0 for 3. Ruben Ibarra, he homered though. He's got 11. And then Nick Northcutt. I thought he was going to be our DSC deep drive of the day until Jake Fraley homered. Home run number 20 on the season for him. Having some great power down there. Down to high A, the Dayton Dragons had a big win today. 12-4 over Lansing. Dragons now 53-45. They hold a playoff spot. Cam Collier, 2 for 4, homer and double. Collier hit his first home run since June 28th, 21 games without a homer. Now, he did homer in the Futures game in between that, but that doesn't count. Collier is, though, 8 for 20. It's a 400 average over his last 6 games. Hector Rodriguez and Carlos Jorge, each 1 for 5. Jay Allen, 0 for 4 with a walk. Leo Balcazar, he is hitting well, 2 for 4 with an RBI. Balcazar hitting 357 over his last 7 games. Ethan O'Donnell had a good day, 2 for 4, double walk, RBI. And then Cade Hunter, he's had a really tough season, but he had a great day. 3 extra base hits, 3 for 5, a homer, and 2 doubles. Daytona, they played a doubleheader as well. In game 1, they won 7-5 over Dunedin. Sammy Stafura had a huge day, 3 for 4, homer, 6 RBIs. Eastmith Pineda 0 for 3. Yerlin Conthadon was on base 3 times. Carlos Sanchez 1 for 4 with a stolen base. On the pitching side, Nestor Laurent continued his incredible season. 4 innings of 1-run baseball, struck out 4. Laurent has a 1.34 ERA, 0.88 whip in 19 starts this season. Andrew Laureano struggled a little bit, ending in 2/3. He gave up 2 runs, struggled with his command, walked 3 batters. They also dropped game 2. They lost 12-1 to Dunedin in game 2. And then out in the Dominican Summer League, just 1 game in action on Wednesday. The DSL Rojos, they beat the DSL Dodgers Mega 3-0. The only player, top prospect on that team that left is Nabil Mariano. Struggled again, 0 for 3, 2 strikeouts. Mariano's the number 28 ranked prospect for the Reds. Sitting just a $169, 537 OPS in 118 at-bats this season.
Excellent job, Nick. Excellent job. On a night like tonight, I appreciate everybody coming into the chat. Also, I'm well aware that my voice a little different, and I'll get back on the horse here soon. But when you're in a spot like me, you don't make this show go any longer than it needs to be. So we're going to jump right into the who, what, when, where, and why, and we'll send everybody on their merry way. So enjoy the maybe what is on tonight? Are there some Olympics on tonight? I don't know. Like there should always be Olympics.
The Olympics don't start till like 4 a.m. It's like 4 a.m. to like 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Gotcha. So you got to watch reruns at this point.
Yeah, they have plenty of reruns, but yeah.
All right. Who, what? Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah. not to say I don't have a graphic. Giants haven't even announced their starters. Reds off tomorrow.
Perfect.
Play the Giants starting on Friday. Friday 7:10. Saturday 7:15 on Big Boy Fox, and then Sunday 12:05 back on the Roku channel for a second straight week. It's Abbott, Green, and Spires for the Reds. Giants haven't announced their starters, but it's likely Kyle Harrison, Blake Snell, and Hayden Birdsong. 3 really tough pitchers. Birdsong having a really good year for them. He's a rookie. Giants right now, they're up 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th. They're 53 and 56, so literally almost identical to the Reds. The Giants had won 4 straight prior to losing to the A's last night. So, yeah, we'll have a lot more on the Chatterbox Reds podcast on Friday morning for you.
Love that. I'll be out in the next few days. In the meantime, Nick obviously will hold it down with the usual fill-ins as we get going here. But hopefully my cold here subsides. We will move on, and we'll have better days on Chatterbox Reds. Because today's, not the best, if we're being honest. I mean, maybe the show was okay, but game, not so much. Folks, if you haven't already, like the stream, go to the podcast, give it a listen tomorrow over the morning coffee if you must in the morning. If you're a coffee drinker, if you're not a coffee drinker, that's fine. Maybe over orange juice, whatever it may be. Some bagels, baguettes. Maybe you'll be watching the Olympics, and you could just listen to a little bit of Chatterbox Reds tomorrow. But as always, we appreciate you more than you know, to be quite frank, on nights like tonight. The OGs, many of you are in the chat. Thank you to Big Z for the supers, and we'll see you all back here better than ever. Not tomorrow, but Friday. Take care, everybody.